Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unlocking the Power of Data. This is powered by the Primary Key. We are very excited. This is our first episode. Joining us today is Vaultspeed with Jonas De Keuster, and this will be powered by Eon Collective. Hi, everybody. My name is Keith Belanger. I'm your host and Chief Datafluencer. I'm joined today with my co-host and Datafluencer, Heather Reddy. And joining us from Belgium and from Vaultspeed, we have Jonas De Keuster. Thanks for joining us today, Jonas.
Hi Keith, hi Heather.
Hello.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So you're all the way in Belgium, where we're having our coffee today. I don't know what you're kind of up to drinking this afternoon. We're about 6 hours apart, but how's everything going on in Belgium the last couple of years?
Well, Belgium obviously probably the same as in the US. So we had COVID as well. Lots of stuff going on, and pretty good given the situation. So also with Vaultspeed, we've been on a roller coaster in the last 2 years, and so things are looking good. COVID is looking better in Belgium as well. We have almost everybody vaccinated here. Winter is coming about, so the weather is becoming a little less good. Lots of rain in Belgium, especially this year, but for the rest, everything's great.
You guys had some floods earlier on in the year too, as well.
Yeah, we had. That was not that good. Probably early signs of global warming in Belgium as well. Yeah.
So are you guys back at the office, still working from home, a little bit of both?
We are doing a little bit of both, although last week was actually the first week since the beginning of COVID that I had a full week at the office. So
wow.
Although now in Belgium, there's two parts in Belgium actually, you can actually have 7 if you really want to, but that would take us way too far. But there's the Flemish part and the French part. So the Flemish part is Dutch speaking, and there's a difference in the vaccination rates. Also in the capital, in Brussels, vaccination rates are a little bit lower. So what we've been seeing the last few weeks is that the numbers of COVID cases, is increasing steadily. Although the really bad cases where it's not going good, they are less than they were before. So we can actually see that the vaccines are doing their job. But there's a little bit more, people are getting a little bit more worried about the numbers, and so we're back to wearing mouth masks and stuff like that, but nothing more than that up until now.
Yeah.
Jonas, can you give us a little background about yourself and your Data Vault journey?
Well, myself, I'm 32 years old, almost 33, and father of a little daughter and little boy. They're both 3, but one is in years and the other one is in months. So the little one is still quite young. So if you hear some baby sounds in the background, I apologize for that. Got married to my wife in 2020. Too bad. So the wedding party is still actually planned for next year. So it was a small party in 2020, but we're doing the real one soon enough. And then actually I got an education at the University of Leuven, which is one of the most known universities in Belgium. And I studied economics and science. And right after that, I started working for a company that is specialized in data warehousing. So in the beginning, I was working with star schemas and doing reports based on star schemas, building dimensions and fact tables and stuff like that. And actually gradually working my way into, so you have a presentation layer filled with star schemas, and then working my way backwards through the data warehouse, and started working with Datavault around 2014, I guess. Really, the first dive was somewhere around then, when I was involved in a project at a large human resource company, active in Belgium, but not only there. Yeah, they they I'm pretty sure they also do business in the US and lots of great parts of Europe. So that's my first experience with Datavault. Turned out to be, yeah, a really big implementation, a few thousands of tables. Um, so apart from the first Datavault experience, it was also the first automation experience, because we did use yeah, the a framework that was built within the company already then in 2014. And so gradually along the years, evolved into a role where I did a lot of yeah, deep technical work on data vaulting, up until a point in 2019 where I was asked to get a bit more involved in the actual product that we were building out of the whole consultancy thing, which then came to be Vaultspeed. And ever since we got the Series A investment with Vaultspeed, I have I know a lot about Datavault. I like to talk about Datavault. So yeah, it was normal that I did something with product marketing, something like that. So that's the role I'm in right now.
Nice.
Data Vault has been around for about 20 years if we go back to Data Vault 1.0.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's getting more traction now?
Well, I think the early on, so the first implementations of Datavault, when it was back Datavault 1.0, they had their limitations and some drawbacks, which eventually got fixed for the larger part when they released the 2.0 version. So that's for one, and maybe the drawback of that was that many companies had a go with the 1.0 version in a time where still there weren't that many automation tools. Technology, database technology at that time was still what it was. It was good, but it's been increasing recently. And maybe they got a bit, some of them just didn't really see the advantages as much as you could see them today, because today times are different. There is a lot of, I mean, the new vendors on the market like Snowflake or Azure Synapse, they keep increasing joint performance and all those kinds of things. There's a much more mature automation market for data vaults right now instead of back then, which also makes it a bit easier to get started. There's lots more people, and on the other hand, the case for Datavault didn't get smaller, right? So there's lots of
I mean, personally, same with me. I was exploring Data Vault, almost like 10 years ago, but whether it was the technology or it just didn't. It's almost like Data Vault was ahead of the technology and ahead of its time, and it really took cloud and some of these other things. I also think, from my perspective, 10 years ago, the number of source systems you were dealing with were a lot of organizations just had like very large monolithic systems. Now,
monoliths.
now we're seeing, you have the streaming and messaging services, and it's just growing. You're going from like, you know, double digit source systems to triple digit and more source systems. So I think the need for having to handle multiple source systems, and I think with cloud, so I think, I mean, my perspective, the technology in the industry has really evolved in a way that now Data Vault is becoming a better fit than some of your traditional. I know when I started traditionally doing data warehousing, we were like, my first projects were monthly refreshes, and then we went to weekly refreshes, and then we went to daily refreshes. Now we're like, if you're not loading your data within seconds, in near real time. So, that's kind of what my perspective is. The other thing that's interesting, Jonas, is that I've really seen, you're in the Europe market. It seems Europe is uh, embracing Data Vault 2.0 much faster than we're seeing here in North America or in the States.
Yeah. Well, when you look at it from a Vaultspeed perspective, so from our customer base, obviously there will be some bias because we are based here. But then when you look at it, or when you look, let's take a look at the automation vendors. Most of them come from outside of the US market, so that's also an indication that, I mean, we started doing data vault automation because we had customers who wanted to do data vault projects in Belgium or the Benelux. And that's why we actually started building on automation and how Vaultspeed eventually came to be. So I think it's an indication of what you're saying, that it's a valid point you're making. However, I do believe it's picking up interest.
Yeah, I am seeing gaining more. I know it's been interesting. I've gone into some organizations and you bring up Data Vault, and many think you're making this up, right? This is this something that you guys do, and it's no, this is a kind of an industry standard that's out there, and so as you said, I think it's gaining traction.
Mhm.
And more, but it really is. I'm thinking it's like 2 or 3 years behind in terms of from an adoption perspective, and kind of leads me into my next question is I find in a lot of these adoptions are these myths about Data Vault. Too many tables, too many joins. Do you run into those same myths and challenges in Europe and in within Vault Speed as well?
Yeah, yes, of course we do. It's the same things, and I think they're all of those are a bit related. If you ask me, a lot of the myths they rose from dealing with bad data vault implementations. Because if you start doing it wrong, if you don't follow the exact methodology as it was written, or you take shortcuts, whatever, things can go wrong quite badly. I mean, we've all heard of, or people that do data vault probably have heard of the source vault or the fake data vault trap.
Right.
That's
Yep.
a dangerous one, and especially in a fake data vault, if you don't really think about your setting your business keys right and working towards an actually well thought through logical model in your physical data vault model. If you don't do that and you don't follow those rules, well, then you will get a lot of tables, and you will get, by consequence, a lot of joins if you don't want to get those data out. Lots of joins, performance will decrease. So it's all, yeah, it's all related, right?
Yeah.
And so, in my opinion, most of those myths come from these bad implementations. So
Yeah,
How-
people trying to take shortcuts and so forth. Sorry, Heather.
Sorry, no. I mean, the quick glance I've got at Vaultspeed, I saw some amazing things that Vaultspeed could do to help with some of these myths. What do you think, Jonas, are one of the bigger things that Vaultspeed does to help with some of these myths?
well, so first of all, when you're starting with a data vault from scratch, it can be so or it's very easy to say, and I was one of those people maybe, that it's a very easy model, right? You have three core concepts: the hub, the link, the satellite. I mean, what can be what can be difficult about it?
Right.
But that's a bit too short. There are traps and there are difficulties in the beginning. If you really have to start with nothing, it can be a lot of work, and a lot of decisions to make, a lot of design decisions to make. So I think one of the things we try to do with Vaultspeed is, Vaultspeed is in its core a modeling tool. So we try to speed up. The first thing you need to speed up is the conception of the physical data vault model. And the way we try to do it is we try to combine. So on one hand side, you have data-driven automation, where you use metadata that you harvested from every source that you have in your organization, where you use that metadata to speed up the build of the physical model. But on the other side, you also have the model-driven side, where you want to work towards a well thought through conceptual logical model. And at Vaultspeed, we try to combine these two angles into the tool as much as possible in order to speed up the design phase of the physical data vault model as much as possible, with the least manual interaction possible. And the only way to do that is so we support practically all the data vault structures or repeatable patterns. We call these our data vault automation templates. So we included them in the tool. They are part of Vaultspeed. If you buy a license Vaultspeed, you get these automation patterns straight out of the box, and those are that together with an interface that is understandable for a user is how we try to speed up things. And then the actual code generation, that's something that flows out of the design phase.
Yeah, I think it's that repeatability and that code that make Datavault and Vaultspeed work so well together. Could you give us a little background on how Vaultspeed came to be?
Yeah, of course. So as I explained earlier, actually it started before I started my career. So back in 2008, the consulting company from which Vaultspeed actually was created started with their first data vault project. Not doing just they believed very much in the model, the way that things are modeled in data vault, and they truly believed at the time that it would help people to cope with change and all the advantages that data vault would bring. So the problem was the first implementations that they did it with no automation whatsoever. So just started building manual ETL coding back in, if I'm correct, Oracle Warehouse Builder at those days, and that failed, badly. So pretty quickly, things started to catch up with them, and they needed to rethink stuff, and that's actually how they started working with automation. So the first patterns that we still use today, of course, was Datavault 1.0 back in those days. Now it's 2.0, but the same concepts that are still embedded in the tool today. The first ones that actually got built or started to get created back in those days, and then gradually throughout the years, more experience got gathered into this framework that we used when we started the project. We rolled in with a whole bunch of scripts and stuff like that to get the data vaults built more quickly, up until a point where we had something like, okay, you got Datavault 2.0 now. You have lots of new database technologies and new vendors coming up. It's a constant shift in which technologies are popular and things like that. So we needed to reach another level of abstraction where we just could separate the logic from what we try to implement, from technology, from whatever. And that's when I think it was back in 2016 that it was decided that we would build or try to build a real product, that we would build it in the clouds. And the rest is a bit history already, because in 2019 we rebranded it. We thought of the name Vaultspeed, and then the investors came along, and this is where we are right now. So we are really trying to reach a global market with our tool.
Yeah, it's very interesting story because I've been there in the place where trying to do data vault manually and building stuff for yourselves. And personally, when I first got to play around with Vaultspeed, it was like, oh, this is fantastic. It really simplifies things. What are some of the things, Jonas, that makes Vaultspeed different than some of the other automation solutions that are out there on the market?
Yeah, I think it's what I said before about the templating, and the fact that so every automation tool has templates or some form of that, but the fact that you have so many possibilities, so many data vault modeling options readily available in our tool, and just by clicking a few buttons and setting a few options, that you can actually select what it will need to look like in your eventual data vault. I think that's something that makes Vaultspeed very strong, and what really gets you set up in a matter of, we say weeks. I mean, if you get me started with the tool and you ask me to set up a source, and I've seen a conceptual model towards which I need to work, I can do it in a day, right? But that's I think it gives you a head start because there's no templating anymore. Vaultspeed is actually quite low code for the main data vault templates. You don't even get to see them. They're just embedded in the front end GUI, where you can model stuff and start working with your source metadata to get eventually towards your conceptual, your logical, and then physical model. So that's I think where we are strong. Yeah.
I know in a previous warehouse structure, I had a coworker who we got to play with Vaultspeed, and she went down from like days worth of code to hours. Was able to produce things and saw the value quickly. So I know there's a lot of great things there. Leading into that though, do you have any exciting or new things going on at Vaultspeed that you want to share with us?
Let me think. I don't want to make anybody mad in the development department. Like, oh my god, now they set the standard. What do we need to deliver? No. So things we are actually working on right now is, for example, we recently released an integration. That's also important, I think, as a feature. So we focus on doing automation, and there's lots of great tools out there, like ETL tools, CDC tools, data governance tools that work with Vaultspeed perfectly. One of the examples is that recently we released an integration with Matillion ETL, which is a great ETL tool. It can connect to lots of sources, great loading performance, and it's a good engine. And so what we built was the first iteration was actually Matillion for Snowflake, so that you could generate from Vaultspeed through the Matillion API, actually automatically generate all the mappings you needed to load your data vault into a Snowflake environment. So this release, we're working on the Synapse, Azure Synapse release, because in Matillion you have different instances based on the cloud data warehouse platform on which you want to release your or build your data vault. So that's something we're working on. Another thing is that in the works, and we're going to release it normally by the end of this year, is an API. So you'll actually be able, so everything you can do within the front end of Vaultspeed, you'll be able to do it through the API as well. So some use cases there, for example, you need to set up a source, or you have several sources that have the same parameterization, things like that. You could actually use the API to do that for you automatically. I think there's also a recording feature in the works, so that you can actually record some stuff that you're doing and then store that into a piece of code and then just re-execute it through a shell script or whatever. But yeah, for example, also if you need some automatic metadata export from the Vaultspeed metadata, because we harvest metadata, but by creating a data vault model, we also create a lot of metadata, and you can export that from Vaultspeed. Let's say you want to feed a data lineage tool with that, you could actually use the API to automatically get that data ingested into your lineage. So the API, and what else? One more that I can disclose maybe at this time is that, so we have the Vaultspeed source editor, in which you can play around with your source tables and set some options there or add stuff to your source model. So we're gonna have the same interface for the data vault, so that you can actually do your hub grouping or your satellite splitting from an interface where you can really see your model. So it will be a bit more integrated compared to what we have now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I like about Vaultspeed is that you guys haven't gone out in the market to try to replace a lot of the industry technologies that organizations have, right? Whether it be, the databases that they're using, the ETL tools they're using, the, scheduling tools they're using, but rather you're enhancing and accelerating the usage. So you're not forcing organizations to do a whole new reinvestment. It's just like you're using Snowflake and you're using Talent or Matillion or just Snowflake, or, that you're just going to now accelerate. And I think that's one of the interesting concepts you guys have brought to the table, that you're not in the runtime,
that's often a misunderstanding. You said it exactly right. We don't do runtime, so we are a tool that accelerates the design phase and actually helps you then build the building blocks you need to implement your runtime, your data pipelines, your data structures. But we're not involved in any runtime. So also there's no data flowing through Vaultspeed. We only use metadata. That's often a misunderstanding, and you've explained it very well. So we try to be the best at what we are good at, and everything else, you mentioned correctly the scheduling or workflow management. There's lots of great tools that do that, so we're not going to try to be the better there, because we're not. We only do automation, and that's what we try to be the best at.
Yeah. So I'd be curious the kind of feedback you're getting from your customers, that, how has this improved them? What kind of feedback you're getting, the benefits that they're seeing since they've gone with Vaultspeed and what they were doing before.
Yeah, so from what we get in surveys and customer interviews, or just what we get back from the people that work in our professional service department, is that what people like most is the speed that they gain. And for me, because I've been working with Vaultspeed for like 5 years by now, but when I have to go back and think about all the stuff I had to do before I had an automation tool that drafted all the code for me, it's crazy. I mean, there was so much work that you did, and it seemed like you were never really progressing. And I think that's also the feedback we get from a lot of customers. So we make their life easier. They have more time to spend on how they will actually use the data, or how they will how they want to model it. So the conceptual and logical design phase, you can spend a lot more time on that. There's not as much rework. Like back in the time when I was building manually star schemas, for example, So you did a design of a dimension, type 1, type 2. You needed to think about the correct incremental load logic, things like that. It took a lot of time, right? And in the end, you then, by the end of the week, you had one dimension ready and was like, yay, I'm so happy now.
And then you found out you had one thing wrong, and you had to go and
yeah, or you needed to add another column,
column,
and then oh my god,
Yeah.
that was
It
was
would take
good work,
months.
but it was a lot slower than what we are doing today, and
Yeah, you
I
really
think
had to go
that's
into more of a waterfall methodology to deliver those things.
yep,
It wasn't as
yeah,
agile as Datavault brings. Yep.
yeah, and although everybody was calling it agile, so that was the problem. It wasn't really agile. We just did what we
Month,
had to do, and
monthly sprints, right?
yeah, monthly sprints exactly. No, so that's what we get most, that we make the life a bit easier, and that by doing that they also gain speed in the implementation phase.
Nice. Well, I think unfortunately we're approaching the end of the show, but before we part ways, how could folks contact Vaultspeed if they're interested in learning more?
Well, I'd say the best way is to go on our website, so vaultspeed.com, where you can actually have a look at a few demo videos. But in my opinion, if you really want, or you're looking for the best possible demo to get the best understanding of what we do, just book an online demo session, and you'll get some great expert advice from our pre-sales team. That's the best way.
Great. And we're going to take all these links and stuff, Jonas, that we've shared during this conversation, and we'll post them, everybody, in the comments, whether this is on LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever. We will make sure all the links and stuff to here. But that is all the time we have today, and we do want to thank you, Jonas, for joining us today. Please, everybody, share, like, do whatever it is to help promote our new channel. We're very excited to have finally done episode 1. We would like to thank our sponsor, Eon Collective, for making this happen. And we will all see you next time. Thanks again, everybody.
Bye.